What's up, everybody? We are live. We're doing something a little different today. Let me know if you can hear me okay. We're gonna do this ramen. Ramen or whatever is what I'm calling it. But, so what I want to do is cook live. We're cooking live, and then I've got Rob on the phone too, and Rob's gonna help me go through the chat box. So ask your questions in the chat box, and we'll do all that like normal. And I'll try to multitask, but it could be completely impossible. We'll see. But it goes okay on the live show. For those of you, a lot of you probably have never seen me cook live before, but I do this other live show that we do on the website where I'm cooking various things and people can actually talk to me. I'm not having to like read the chat box, so it's going to be a little different. But this gives you a sense of what we're doing when we're doing the live show on the weekends on the Well Your World website. So we're making ramen. You've seen me post about it a couple times in the group. Hey everybody, Sarah, Joanne, Buff, what's up Buff? Erica, Ellen, thanks everybody for showing up live. What's up Fred, Randy, Kathy, Erica, I think I said that. So let's get started. What was I going to say? This ramen, I've been experimenting with it because obviously ramen is one of those things that making it SOS free is not so easy because it usually has a boatload of soy sauce in it to make it taste good. So I had to try to make it taste good without that. But you could still always put soy sauce in if you really wanted to. And we'll talk about that. So the first thing I want to do is make some broth. It really just comes down to make a broth and then put things that taste good into it and eat them. And that's all there is to it. So it's pretty simple. Now it's funny because on Tuesday I made that video about how I'm not a chef, which I'm not, and how I don't like to cook with recipes. But I have actually gone out of my way, you've taken me out of my comfort zone today, to try to make this into an actual recipe. And I'll flash the recipe in a minute. I got it set up for you to see. But when I usually make this, it is not organized like this. It is just a total random, some things go in and some things get forgotten. And so you guys decide if you want to actually try to follow this recipe, but most of the flavors are pretty intuitive and you just kind of get the hang of it. So let's just do it. I'm going to actually take this pot and we'll just do this over here. We'll put all the broth stuff in and then we'll add the water after, okay? So here we are, here's the cutting board, and I'm going to take this, check it out, 1, 2, 3, 4. There is the recipe. So you can come back and you can screenshot that, okay? And I'll show it a few times, but all we're going to do is take, so here are some ingredients. That video, remember that video I made that was thanks Buff for the super chat, I appreciate that. Remember the video I made where I used the dry celery, carrot, and onion. I meant to get the links already, but you come back for the replay and by then I'll have the links to these items for you to buy online if you don't know where to get them locally. And then here's tomato. We're going to do some tomato also. So let's do this thing. So I'm going to take, I've already kind of measured these out so that I'm not wasting your time here. I'll go in order on my recipe. So we've got a tablespoon. I'm going to first take a tablespoon each of the celery, onion, tomato in the chopped form. And that's what you see here. Okay? Carrot, celery, onion, and the chopped diced tomato. This stuff's pretty slick. Definitely, when you want to cook fast, this is the stuff. You don't have to chop. You're going to see I'm not chopping very much today until I get to the fresh ingredients. So, Rob, are you there?
I'm here.
Say hi to everybody and
hey everyone.
Interrupt me if there are some. Can everybody hear Rob? Let me know in the chat box, just so we know that I know how to use technology, which I think I do. But who knows. And Rob's going to chime in with some of your questions. So feel free to interrupt me. If someone's asking something about what I'm doing, Rob, just let me know. So here's the next thing. So now I've taken, you can use veggie stock or you can use water for this. I'm using water because I don't always have veggie stock ready. And I like just putting spices in and making water taste good. What do you think of that? So in order to add some more, you might find that a tablespoon each of the carrot, celery, onion makes it too chunky. Obviously, when you make ramen out of the piece of junk ramens like these, and I got this, I've had this for years, but it's a vegan ramen that is full of poison, many different forms of poison on the ingredient list here. But what I did to come up with this little recipe and what I've done in the past is I've just read off some of the ingredients, and you know, there might be 3 or 4 that we could actually eat. So, but you know how when you add the little dried veggie packets that come with those, there's like, what, 1/4 teaspoon of vegetables that you're putting in? So if I'm putting in many tablespoons of all this stuff, you might find it kind of chunky. But it's also going to flavor the broth, you know, big time. So what I'm going to do is take another tablespoon of just the carrot, celery, onion, and I'm going to grind it up into a powder. So I put it in this little, you know, bullet blender deal, and I'm just going to grind it up. And I like to give it a little shake to mix it around a little bit. Is that super loud? Sorry.
They want to know if you could flash, Janice Miller says, can you flash the recipe again?
Yeah, recipe coming. There it is. So there you see the carrot, celery, onion, and then I've got on there the ground version of carrot, celery, onion. Okay? And that's going in. And then what I also did, and the reason I ground that up is, like I said, to make it a little less chunky, but we want that flavor in the broth because we want all the flavor we can get. And again, you can use veggie stock and use less of these veggies if you want to. You don't have to do it with veggies, you know, from scratch like I am. So that's that. And now we got what's next on the recipe. Let's go back. The next would be the shiitake mushroom and the seaweed and the chili. So here's what I've done. I've got, you can buy these shiitakes. Where did I put them? Right here. You can get these shiitakes dried. I'm sorry I don't have the links available right now. That would have been handy. But I'm going to come back, I promise you, and I'm going to add them to the replay down below when we're done here. So these are the 2 forms of shiitake mushrooms that you can buy. Like I buy them in the, you know, you can buy them in a bag and they're sliced up. These seem to be cheaper, or maybe they're just lighter, I don't know. And then here are the whole ones. So you might be able to buy, I didn't look, but you might be able to buy shiitake mushroom powder. For my dry gravy mix that I saw on the website, I buy bulk 25-pound boxes of dry shiitake mushroom already in powder form. But I'm assuming that that's not as easily available for others. So all I did was I took those shiitakes and I threw them in the little bullet and I ground them up into a powder. So this came to, what's on there? We got a tablespoon. I used a big tablespoon. A big tablespoon of the mushroom powder.
Hey,
okay.
Dylan, Rosalind May wants to know how fresh are the ingredients?
Hi, Rosalind. Well, I mean, we're using the dried stuff, so this is dehydrated. Of course, you're more than welcome to finely chop some carrot, celery, onion for this and do it like that. But when I make this, I'm doing it fast, and then, so I'll make the broth really quickly, and then I'll throw in the noodles and broccoli, and we're gonna throw in a few other fancy pants items that I don't usually use. But I have been this week practicing for y'all. So these aren't like fresh ingredients. These, you know, the mushrooms are dried. Everything we've used so far is dried. And then I take...
Sarah Smith says, or Cyrus Smith says, I put
Sarah.
Dry sea palm in mine.
Dry sea...
Palm.
What was it? Palm?
Dry sea palm.
Do palm trees grow in the sea? That's new to me. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. But what I am using is the next thing I'm using is this dry, so this is just a, can you see that? Dry brown seaweed is all it says. I get this at the Asian market along with the shiitake mushrooms. And it looks like this. You can get it in, I mean, you all know how you can get seaweed in sheets. You can get it. This comes in kind of this flaky, stringy bits of seaweed. And as soon as you add this to something, it takes up way more surface area. This stuff turns into like big pieces. It's actually, it's really bewildering how that works. But nonetheless, it rehydrates into big pieces of seaweed. So what I did again is I took seaweed and I ground it up in the little blender. So I've got about a tablespoon. A tablespoon is a lot for this small amount, so if you want less, you could use like between a teaspoon or 3. A tablespoon is 3 teaspoons, so there you go. I put a tablespoon on my Dylan's SOS-free ramen or whatever recipe here. And I'm gonna throw in a whole tablespoon. And that's gonna give it definitely some umami, let me tell you. And then I've got also these, if you've watched my salsa video on YouTube, I take these are guajillo, but you can get any kind of dry chili pods from some sort of a Latin market. And all I did was I ground them into chili powder. I chose these ones. The reason I did it like that and I didn't just use regular old chili powder is because you can get some pretty mild chilies. And I know that some of us in Well Your World, no offense, are afraid of the heat. I'm not one of them. But, you know, nonetheless, I've got your back. And so you can get some pretty mild chilies that say mild. And you can shove them into there and you can blend them up so you know kind of what kind of chili powder you're getting. But I've taken a whole tablespoon of that as well. And that's going in. Tablespoon of the ground up chili. And then what? I've got garlic powder. I've got a teaspoon of garlic powder. I've got a teaspoon of nutritional yeast. You don't have to use nutritional yeast. It doesn't add much. It sort of clouds up the broth a little bit, which is, you know, whatever. And then what did I put on here? A teaspoon of paprika? Yeah, a teaspoon of paprika. This is actually smoked. This is smoked. So all 3 of those will go in. You get in there. Oh yes. And the garlic. And a couple more things. Let's go back. What else do I have on here? Okay, rice wine vinegar, some 5 spice. Let's do that. So I've got just rice wine vinegar. I've just put like what, a teaspoon? So just like a teaspoon of, it's not rice wine vinegar, it's just rice vinegar. Sorry. Did I put rice wine? Oh, Dylan, I'm gonna have to, it's just rice vinegar, okay? I don't put things in recipes very often, so it confuses me. Who cooks that way? And then I've got here's the Chinese 5 spice. Boop. 5 spice just has what? Ginger and cloves and licorice and stuff like that. And it can be a bit strong. So you may want to start with like 1/8 of a teaspoon and see if you like it, if it's not something you cook with often. And then maybe some black pepper. And I'm gonna take it the extra mile and throw in some Thai chili peppers because, you know, I like it spicy. So let's set that aside. That's pretty much everything except the chili peppers. Did I put everything in? Yeah, I think so. So you know these babies. Oh yeah. If any of you are nervous just looking at them, then I would suggest leaving them out. And then just thinly slice these, whatever way you like. This knife is sharp. Oh yeah. How's the chat room going?
Good. Vote Green has a comment that to make it easier, you can get a mason jar and kind of put all the dry ingredients in there and then have it for multiple servings. So
yeah, or if you want, I'll do it for you and sell it to you. I can totally make a Dylan's ramen blend, and you know, kind of like I do the cheese sauce or the mushroom gravy. Okay, that's it. I threw in 2 peppers. That's probably enough. You saw me. I just sliced them really thin, and now let's go over to the stove. That's everything I wanted to do over here. Okay,
and
cool.
Cyrus Smith says, "Where's the scorpion peppers?"
That's Sarah, and
Sarah. Okay.
I had to ask her last time to make sure I was pronouncing it right. I didn't do scorpion peppers this time because I didn't want to choke on camera and not be able to talk. So, you know. I'm going to add like 6 cups of water. And I'm using boiling water because you know how I like to save time. Some of this water is going to inevitably boil off because we're going to let this simmer for a while. We got to allow those dehydrated veggies to rehydrate and everything. Where's my wooden spoon? And let's give it a stir. So you can
Produce
see
Not Pills is asking, how many servings do you think will be in this recipe? Have you done it to finish yet?
Well, who are you asking for? For me, it's not going to fill me up. But for you, I don't know. If I was going to put this in a box and sell it, I guess I would call this 2 servings. Because we're going to use 2 of the little ramen bricks. The noodles. Okay, so let's just let this go for a while. I've got it heating up. And we're going to let that simmer, and we'll come back over here and prep a couple of other things and hang out. Does anyone have questions about things other than this too that we can talk about? Because this is not going to take, we're 15 minutes in, it's not going to take an hour. So let's talk about noodles. This is, some of us definitely recognize this special package of noodles. These are the brown rice ramen noodles. It has brown rice flour and millet, right? Organic brown rice flour, organic millet. 2 ingredients, no added salt. Everything we're doing here is SOS free. And I like these a lot. The texture is actually good. I mean, of course, you can use whatever noodle you want. Check out these ones that I tried yesterday. Where did I put them? These are a Korean noodle. It's a fresh noodle. It's a buckwheat noodle. And I think this is just flour to stop them from sticking together because these are fresh, you know? Doesn't that look awesome? They taste pretty good. The texture I didn't love, but most of these noodles that you're looking at here they just put so much salt in them, and it's like 1,000 milligrams of sodium in a serving. This was the only one that had it there was only 70 milligrams of sodium in one of these big portions. So you can find them.
Asked, where did you get your pans?
The pans?
Yes.
The stainless steel pans? Those are just the Costco, Kirkland. You know, it's Costco, baby. They do everything. So that's where I bought them. And I'm sure it was a nice, affordable set. So I've had them for years. I've had them for, you know, four years. So they hold. And I've burnt the hell out of those things so many times, getting used to the induction stove and stuff when I first started. And they always come back. They always come back to life. So these are the noodles I'm going to use, but you can use whatever noodle you damn well please. And that's what they look like. And so we'll use 2 of those. So let me get this going. Oh, check out the stove. This broth is looking nice. And then so I've got it, once it gets up to a boil, just bring it back down to a medium and let it simmer. And I can smell the seaweed, I can smell the mushroom, I can smell everything. It's delightful. It's really good. So do we want to do the noodles? Yeah, we can do the noodles now because we're gonna stop the noodles cooking by rinsing them in cold water after. So let me get this water up to a boil. And yeah, we're close enough. So drop in the 2 patties. Don't let it overflow. Boil over. And we're going to use a fork to break them up. I'm going to give them like a minute. We'll come back. Don't let me forget. And now here's what I like to put. So we're done. I've shown you all these things. Paprika. Did you know that paprika was as common in this? I didn't. Thanks, Poison. Oh, I just did it. I did exactly what I said don't do. And it's everywhere.
You got a super chat from Fred for $10.
Hey Fred, thank you so much. Is it because I boiled over the ramen noodles? Embarrassed myself live? I appreciate it. Okay, so, you know, now actually turn it down and don't overflow. And I might do it again, just because that's how we do it here, apparently. Okay. So here's what I'm going to put on there. I'm going to do, over to the right, stuff. Brown rice noodles, we got that. Taro. Oh, this is another thing that I get from the Asian market. When you buy it in a kind of, this is the, You can buy it in a big unpeeled version and then you have to deal with it, or you can buy it in just big blocks. And taro is, for those of you who don't know, it's really just like a potato, except sweeter and starchier, I would say. And it's quite nice. I like it a lot. And so I got probably 3-4 times this much for like $2 or less. And I chop it into pieces that look like this, little triangles. And not too thick, maybe a 1/4 inch thick or so, okay? And so those will go in first when we're ready. I hear the noodles, how we doing? Oh, just about. Just about did it again. And I'm just gonna break it up a little bit with my fork. You do not want to overcook these because sloppy noodles in your ramen is just a real bummer.
I learned a little trick that you can put a wooden spoon over the pot and it won't boil over.
That is a lie. You're lying to me.
Oh, there. Sue Tinkerson said that.
She's lying. She's just wants to see me embarrass myself. Let's do it. Sue, you're telling me that if I turn this up, that spoon's gonna stop it from boiling. And you actually convinced me to do it in front of you. I'm totally embarrassed. It's going to.
Right.
Wait, how is this happening? Okay, it started to go over, but I took it to an extreme. I took it to an unfair extreme to sabotage you, but that actually worked to some extent. I'm not gonna lie. Wow, I've just never heard of that before. But it sort of like stopped the bubbles from building up. Fascinating. Thank you, Sue. You've changed my life and the life of many others. Well, something new here every week. Guess I'll leave the spoon there, you just never know. What's the next stuff that I want? So we did the taro, here are the beach mushrooms and the broccoli and the shishitos and okay. So these mushrooms, they come in just a little package, again from the Asian market. These are the brown beach mushrooms, B-E-E-C-H. And they're delightful. I already rinsed them. But they just come in this block. Can you imagine walking around a forest and just seeing this happy little chunk of mushrooms on a log somewhere? I would be pretty excited, to say the least, apparently. And I'm going to just take them and we'll just cut the bottoms. I'm going to leave them nice and long. So we'll just cut this bottom root system off, whatever the hell it is. And then, so that looks pretty nice. So we'll start with that. And then you can use this if you make veggie stock, that's good stuff right there. However, I'm not, so it is what it is. Next, I've got some, I better get back to the spoon. The spoon's holding the fork down over here.
Hey Dylan, we have a Dr. Lyle omnivore question. Do you want to address it while you're cooking or maybe wait till the end?
No, tell me the question. But hold on,
okay.
What I want to do first, these noodles are like just chewy. They're like just right. So I'm going to go over to my sink and I'm going to strain them and I'm going to immediately rinse them. These brown rice noodles are really starchy, so I would not want to cook the noodles into my soup. Plus, once you do that, you have no control of how cooked they're going to get. So the first thing I do is rinse them with cold water so they stop cooking, and then we'll just let them sit in the colander. In fact, you can put them right into your bowl. We're not going to put them back into the actual soup. So that's that. I got all the starch out and I've cooled them off. And we'll just let them sit. Okay, what's the Dr. Lyle question?
Scott Berger asks, I want to ask why Dr. Lyle calls us omnivores. If meat allowed us to survive winters or travel, that doesn't seem to take away from the anatomy paradigm that we are herbivores.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I can't really speak very well to the anatomy paradigm. Like, I understand Dr. Milton Mills and his presentation where he talks about how our bodies anatomically are herbivores, and it makes perfectly logical sense. A lot of the arguments he makes, like that we're not prey animals, but it doesn't matter because in our natural history we know that we were hunter-gatherers, we know that hunting occurred, and we know that animal meat, lean animal meat, nothing like the poisonous animal meat that is available today, and it was still poisonous, but I made a video about this that you could watch too. It was Scott, right? And where I talked about whether we're herbivores or omnivores, and there was an analogy that Dr. Lyle used in one of his episodes of this podcast where he said, just because we can burn two forms of fuel does not mean that they're equal. So in other words, yes, in our natural history, we didn't know when we were going to get our next meal, so our car could burn unleaded fuel, let's say, which was clean, and diesel fuel, which was dirty, and the car, over the life of the whole car, if it only ate diesel fuel, it was only going to last half as long as if we could fill it up with unleaded every single time. But the thing is, we don't know where the gas stations are. There's no maps. So every time we get to a gas station, the smartest thing we could do is make sure that we're going to be a full gas tank. And hopefully, and it turned out that where we got the bulk of our calories was from things that were not meat, was from starches, and from the gathering side of the hunter-gathering. So yes, it was in our best interest to eat the meat because all of the other foods were relatively scarce, not as scarce as meat. Meat was the most scarce. We didn't get meat constantly like we did. Well, constantly is the wrong word, but we didn't get meat as often as we had the starches and the gatherer foods available. So yeah, ideally we would have always burned unleaded fuel, but at the end of the day we didn't know where the next unleaded fuel gas station was going to be, so you had to eat some meat along the way in order to just stay alive. So we know that we ate meat, but it doesn't mean that nowadays with all the other things plentifully available that we should continue to do that. And the way that it's done anyway, regardless, is terrible for us and the planet. It's simply awful in so many ways. So yeah, if you still ate maybe 5-10% of your calories from lean game, would it affect your health negatively? Probably not if you're already in good health. If you're recovering from something like a heart issue, like heart disease or type 2 diabetes or any of these things, then obviously it's in your best interest to eat perfectly clean, 0% meat. But if you're healthy, if it was me, and I, just the same as once in a while I occasionally poison myself with oil in small amounts and very infrequently, I can get away with that. It's not going to cause me any kind of detrimental physical health effects. It'll mess with my head a little bit because it makes you crave it as soon as it touches your lips. And so that's really challenging. But at the end of the day, you could, and we did, survive eating a small portion of our calories from meat. So, but as to Milton Mills' argument and how we're not anatomically supposed to eat meat, well, it doesn't matter because we did, and that's what got us to this point in our evolution. So whether we're anatomically whatever, it's irrelevant because there's already proof that shows that that's what happened. So, I agree we're certainly not carnivores. That's obviously also proven in our natural history. So that's what Dr. Lyle says. I'm only repeating. I don't interpret. So let's keep going. I've got some broccoli. This was just like one crown, is that what they call it, of broccoli that I chopped up. I've got some snow peas. Yes. And I've got some shishito peppers, which I don't use often, but I was at the Asian market and I thought, oh, those look nice. And they're nice and crunchy. They're pretty well mild, I would say. And I'm just gonna top them and quarter them. And we'll throw that in our broth as well. And that'll be nice.
We have a cat question here, Dylan, from Luther Manning. Okay. I have cats. I'd like to convert them over to plant-based food. Has anyone done that?
I mean, I know they have vegan cat food, but I can't speak to whether it's in your cat's best interest to eat it. I don't have cats. I don't know. I suppose if I had cats with the desert the way it is and the little mice that run around, they would probably be off hunting things, regardless of what I feed them. So, but I don't, I understand cats to be carnivorous. And so I don't know what to tell you on that. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't own a cat so that I wouldn't have to buy things that aren't vegan for the cat. but that's me, and I don't expect you to be completely on the same page as me. If there are cat owners out there, and they'll probably chime in the chat box, because this can be a controversial area for a lot of people. I'm not going to judge you because you have a cat and you want to buy the cat meat food. I can't, I can't just say you're a monster because of that. Cats exist. People have cats. But I wouldn't have a cat because I would have cognitive dissonance over that situation. So that's the reason why, for me, it doesn't work so well. Scott says it's very risky to put a cat on a vegan diet. Dogs, you can. Yeah, my dog ate a vegan diet, so, But yeah, so there you go. I certainly should do more research than just listening to what I have to say on it, because, what do I know? I don't have a cat. Some Napa cabbage. I've got 3 leaves, which is probably too many. So let's just do 1. And I'm just going to cut this into some large pieces. I like cutting down this root. The root's my favorite because it stays nice and crispy. Maybe we'll go down the middle one more time. How's that? A little Napa. And we're going to do it kind of hot pot style. Different things go in at different times because they take longer. And how about a little tofu? The intuitive bunch that we are, you've probably noticed that I've got some tofu out here. And I told you I wasn't going to eat overt fats this month. And then at the live show that I did last weekend, I made this salsa that had avocado in it. I sacrificed myself for the show. And then I ate that salsa for 2 days, so boy, I went off the rails with my overt fats. How's that look? Pretty nice, huh? Nice looking broth. Again,
really
I don't know if this is I don't know if this is truly ramen. So anybody out there who may be an expert at ramen who feels that I'm doing a terrible job with respect to keeping it real, yeah, you could certainly be right. I don't know what I'm doing. All I did, like I said, was read the back of one of these. And I made it taste good. I made it taste like something I would like to eat. This is the coolest contraption. It's a tofu press. You just take let me drain this a little. You just take a block of tofu, put it in this thing, and then this lid goes on top. And this spring goes on top and it pushes down and pushes out all the liquid. I would also link to this, but I don't think they exist anymore, this particular brand. So what a shame. This is precious to me. I keep it in the box because I'm worried if I ever break it, I won't be able to get it again. This is the only tofu press I've seen that is not like turning bolts and weighing plates and adding water to something for weight, and it's like the coolest thing, and I don't think they exist anymore. So here is a nice block of tofu that I've pressed all the liquid out, and now you could soak this in some kind of a marinade and you could add some flavor to your tofu. So we're just going to take like 2 strips like that, and I'll just cut it into some squares. Little cubes. Again, see, not too much tofu. I'm just kind of using it as a condiment because tofu is easy to overdo and get more calories than you want from fat. You know what I'm saying? Because tofu is obviously a high percentage of calories from fat. It's not a starch like we conventionally think of starches. So let's throw this thing together. It's been a half hour. I'm doing all right on time, aren't I? So on the stove. Oh, I shut it off. Nice work. And here's where you're going to kind of decide, is this too much chunkiness? You could, if you wanted, take your strainer. Let me show you what I mean by that. You could strain it. If you want a clear broth, you could strain it through one of these fine strainers. You could just go in here and sort of scoop out some of this veg. But you can see there's a lot of texture to this broth. I like it that way, so I'm going to leave it all in. But you can decide, and again, you could use veggie stock and minimize some of your use of the carrot, celery, onion, of course. But that's what we got. So now I'm going to get it back up, to a simmer, and I'm going to start adding things. The first thing I'm going to add to it is going to be this taro, because that's going to take a few minutes to cook. So let's throw that in, and we'll let her simmer for a minute, and then we'll get the rest of everything in there. How's everybody doing?
Good. The chat box has a lot going on about the cats, food, and things like that.
Are people fighting?
No, it's just good information about different foods that people try.
Good. So, no brawls.
No, and different things to put in the ramen also.
Oh, nice. Ooh, what else? What am I missing?
Oh, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's sweet potatoes for the cat. My bad.
I mean, you could put sweet potatoes in the ramen, just the same as I'm putting the taro in the ramen. So, you know, the sky's the limit. I've done a lot of things. We have this restaurant that I don't like to go to very often now because the broths are so salty. Like, you're in pain when you leave, and you're swollen. You can just feel your feet and fingers swelling. But it's like a hot pot. They have a broth like this. It's not as thick and with lots of veggies in it, but it's a plain base. And then you can buy all of these different, you order a broccoli and a bowl of cabbage and a bowl of mushrooms and tofu and the noodles, and then you put it together at the table. I'm sure many of you have heard of this shabu style fondue, they call it. And it's pretty good. And I've done it here at home before, well, much like we're doing now. But it's hard to make a tasty broth without all that salt that people will actually eat, or to have it on the ready in a restaurant, because we don't come around very often to these places. But I was at that NHA meeting, we went to Cleveland, and this is looking good. And we went to a restaurant while I was there when we were doing the NHA planning for the National Health Association conference this summer. I can talk more about that another time. But we all went to this restaurant that did the hot pot style stuff. And the people I was there with, obviously they were SOS free, which was awesome because I didn't have to use my brain at all to eat out at a restaurant, which is a real treat. They had already done it. They ordered, it was just some broth with it was water with some goji berries or something, and some mushrooms, and that was just kind of simmering in the water. And then you add all of these veggies and some hot sauce that did have some salt and stuff like that, so that added some flavor. But it was pretty cool dining with people that are SOS free and already know the locations. You don't have to think about anything, and you're just good to go. So let's keep it going.
Luther Manning asks, would soba noodles work instead of ramen?
You could use any kind of noodles. I bought another noodle yesterday that looked like it was going to become more of an udon type of a noodle. Let's see where that went. Here it is. Here, this one, did this one have, this one I don't think it had added salt. This was wheat, flour, and water, so I think it was probably a refined, because it doesn't look dark. Whoops. This was, you might have some trouble reading that just as I did. Because all I did was grab them, read the label. There's an English nutrition facts label stuck onto the back because obviously this is imported from South Korea, it says. And it just says wheat, flour, water. So this is more of a more traditional noodle, but not as healthy as something like a whole brown rice flour, but at least it doesn't have a bunch of added salt, because a lot of the noodles at the Asian market have added salt. I went yesterday, I had to look through quite a few bags. Okay, let's dump in, actually let's throw in those mushrooms first. You just grab
Produce
them.
Not Pills asks, have you ever tried freezing tofu? I heard it kind of helps to drain it.
Yeah, well, the original way they say that freeze drying was discovered was up at high altitudes, where they would freeze it and thaw it, and because it was at a higher altitude and the air pressure was lower, then it would actually, some of the water would, sort of like dry ice, goes right into a gas. And so that was kind of removing the moisture from the tofu. And freeze-dried tofu is a common, I don't know what the word is, snack or food or whatever in, wherever. But that's interesting. I have freeze-dried tofu in my freeze dryer because when I learned about that, I was interested. So this, to me, in my opinion, needs more water. It's a little too thick. We've lost a bit during the simmer process. That's looking better for me. And this now, all of those items only need a very short time, which is why you could have made a smaller pot and then only add the things you're gonna eat. Because the longer this sits, like say if I'm gonna eat this in 2 bowls of soup, all this stuff is gonna get overcooked. The broccoli and the peppers and all this stuff, it's gonna get overcooked. So you gotta kind of figure that out. But it takes a little practice, but nothing, no big deal. And then let's throw in some of this napa. And napa only takes like 30 seconds, as you can imagine. And the snow peas and the tofu we'll put in our bowl. Okay, so this is it. So all we did was make a broth and throw stuff in it.
It looks like your tofu press was found by Lisa Schoenberger on Amazon.
Really?
And yeah. We don't have a link just yet, but we have the name and everything in the chat.
Is it the Tofu Express? Because
yes.
this is it, and I couldn't find it last time. So, and it's Tofu Express, get it? .com. And I could have sworn last time I looked at it like it was gone and didn't exist. So if it exists, I'll put a link for that too, or I guess y'all have the link. Guess you're taken care of. Okay, we're done. I don't want to overcook this. Let's come over here and make a ramen.
Lisa Schoenberger says yes, it's the same one.
Sweet. Thanks, Lisa. It's pretty slick. So here we go. Noodles. That's again 2 of those patties. And then I'm gonna get a ladle. Here we go. So this is pretty chunky still. I could have added even more water. So I'll cheat and sort of take some more water out of this. And now we gotta give it a little flip. So we gotta get these noodles moved around a little bit. Otherwise it's not photogenic enough. Okay, grab some of this nice stuff. I overcooked the taro just a touch. No big deal. Nobody freak out. And there's that. Throw in some snow peas. Snow peas will be just fine. They'll soften up in a second. Yes. And some tofu. Oh yeah. And then we got the secret ingredient, the nori. So then I take some nori slices that are no added garbage. What is in this anyway? Ingredient seaweed. Okay, so they don't make it salty. It's the ones where they add the oil and the salt to the little snack container ones. Don't use those. And now I'm literally going to just grab my scissors, which I've, as you can see, I have sterilized. Do you know when I'm lying? I think everybody knows when I'm lying. And I'm cutting it into strips. This does not go so well with a knife. It doesn't matter how sharp your knife is. Going through nori is like, it's like bulletproof or something, except to scissors. And then stack it all up. Yes. Oh yeah. See that? Okay, don't overdo it. I always get excited here and overdo it. You don't have to finish everything every time. Okay, that's ramen. What do you think? What do you think, y'all?
A lot of good comments. Looks great, looks amazing. Yummy.
Aw, shucks. Let's see. You have to try this now and let me know how it is. Mmm. That's better than my one earlier today. I didn't put the taro in it today. Oh, the taro is not overcooked. It's perfect. And the shishito peppers, part of my chewing. But these peppers stay nice and crunchy. Okay, well, that's ramen. Oh, that's hot. Okay, what do you think? I made a real recipe. Can you believe it? 2 days after bashing people that make recipes. Oh man, I want to eat more of this. Okay, I'll sit down. Let me get a chair. So we got another 15 minutes. Cool, I timed that out all right. It's almost as if I've done this 20 times live, which I have. So if you like this, you could go to wellyourworld.com and check out the live show where I twice a month do this, and we have a good time. So now you've seen me cook live. It's a little different from my 3, 5, 6 minute cooking videos, but that's how it goes. So what's everybody saying? Okay, chat with me now. Any other questions? Chef Dylan, we always knew. I'm no chef. I told you I have to correct everybody who calls me a chef. I'm gonna try not to slurp these noodles, but I can't just stare at this bowl. But I guess I will. I'll just stare at it for 15 minutes. So anyway, noodles and slurping, yes. In fact, I do kind of need a napkin. So is this a format you like? Or do you want me to just sit and do the Q&A? If you had to vote, vote. Let's hear it. If Dylan doesn't say, whoa, that's hot, and burn himself, then he didn't do it. It was the broccoli. The broth wasn't even too hot. It was the big piece of broccoli that holds all that moisture and then it explodes all the heat on you. Anyway. Janet says my nose runs when I eat hot stuff. My nose runs when I eat hot stuff too, but it's just not, enough to stop me from doing it. Because it just burns so good. So, Joy says, I like the cooking and chat. Cool. Love the format. All right, well, we'll think of ways where we can integrate this once in a while. But this is fancy stuff. Showing you the recipe, I don't know if I can guarantee that I will be organized enough to have this recipe with all these numbers. I mean, you can see, I just picked a tablespoon and put it on the paper, and it kind of worked out. But, you know, if I was going to test this recipe 15 times for a cookbook, you know, maybe I would have slightly less celery than onion and carrot and all these things. But I just don't do it that way. This was the first time I've even measured. And it worked out. So, I like both ways for the live. Okay, that's Mick Hillick. Lisa, hi Lisa. Gotta do both types of shows. Okay, well then we'll do both. I like the format. Chef Dylan sounds accurate. He's just modest. You know, that's not true though. If you were gonna challenge me to cook with a chef, well, I can tell you I'd finish first. But I'm sure it won't be as fancy. Mona says I'm too intimidated to go to the Asian market. Oh no, you've got to go. Actually, the Asian market's really fun. The Asian market I go to is not just Asia. It is all Eastern Europe. There's not a lot of Latin American stuff there, but it's a lot. It's all Asia and tons of Eastern Europe and sort of the Russian-esque side of things, and it's pretty cool. A lot of Polish food. And then in the produce area, they have all the stuff that most people don't carry, like all the Japanese eggplants and all that stuff. That's pretty cool, and tons of different peppers. You can buy peeled garlic. I feel kind of bad doing it, but when I'm too lazy to peel the garlic myself, but I want to, Rob, mute it. But I want to, you know, cheat a little bit, then I can buy it in the saran wrapped, already peeled cloves of garlic. Anyway, the Asian market's fun. You should go there. I have to be careful. I almost broke my Tofu Express, but you know, I can buy another one apparently. I'm not gonna break it. I'm very careful with it. So then what I like to do is you can put a little lid on this that comes with it, and you can marinate it, or you can just put it in a Ziploc bag and cut it into strips first maybe, and you can marinate it, and then I'll put it in the dehydrator and make sort of like tofu jerky for hikes. I'll admit, usually when I do that I use soy sauce to get a little bit of saltiness for the hikes, and then I also take like what are they called? Electrolyte capsules. And so that's, you know, a way of doing it. So anyway, that's some fun stuff to do with tofu once in a while. We need a cook-off, Joyce? Who am I going to cook off with? Cookbook, you could call it a no recipe cookbook. Well, that's kind of what I wanted to do, except that you know, how do you put that in a book? How do you make a no recipe cookbook and still sell it and market it as a cookbook to people and then still sleep at night? Because I feel like people want a cookbook. Janet says it's 60 and rainy in Sacramento. I kind of wish that we still had some 60 and rain. Cindy, thank you. I like Dylan's straightforward approach to healthy eating. It's not my approach. Somebody taught me in a book, and I just, well, okay, it's a mix of people telling me the healthy way to eat and then putting my own spin on it where I don't care about anything. And I just do it as quickly as possible. Get in, get out. So there's that. Sorry about these stupid things in my ears. I'm self-conscious about them because they look so dumb. But I had to hear Rob talking to me, so, you know, they have to be there. Sarah says, I think we should do cheese sauce wrestling. Are you saying cheese sauce wrestling? Oh my goodness. That would be, so like in a baby pool, kind of like, never mind. Well, I will take your idea into consideration. We'll put a poll in the Facebook group. We'll see who wants to do a cheese sauce wrestling. Boy, that would be messy. That would be messier than Vaseline. No, it wouldn't. It would rinse right off. You just hose people down and they're clean again. My Asian market is 95% processed. Oh, bummer. What? Yeah, actually, that's true. There's probably 2-3 aisles I go down, I'll tell you. I go into the produce area. Actually, I usually go into the produce area last so that I can browse the other stuff. I'll check out, I don't do it anymore because I already know it by heart, but I used to go down the hot sauce aisle a lot and see what hot sauces I would like. But you know, now I know, and there aren't that many that I actually like or that are not that have like fish sauce and stuff like that in it. And then so I'll go to the Indian spices. I love all the Indian spices. That's one aisle. And then there's the next one has some of the fresh noodles like I showed you, and that's where the tofu is. I used to make my own tofu, but then you realize you can pay $1 and this will last me, you know, I only used a pretty small portion of the whole block, half of it or less. No, it was way less. I only cut off 2 strips. And for 99 cents, and you're like, yeah, I could make it even cheaper than that, but not when you factor in the time that I spent. So I stopped making it. But you can get even organic, non-GMO and stuff for very cheap for tofu. Anyway, that's another aisle. And then that's where the miso paste is that I don't buy very often anymore. Oh, and I forgot to say, in this broth, if you're not SOS free, and I know lots of people watching aren't SOS free, you can add a teaspoon or 2. Like in this bowl, I would add maybe a teaspoon, which is like less than oh, I got it out and everything. Except it was showing you this big bottle would make you think that I drink a lot of soy sauce, but actually this is like a 5+ year supply of soy sauce. The last bottle I had literally took me many years to go through because I bought it at Costco. In hindsight, I don't know why. I had bought this before I started eating healthy, and I had 2, jugs like this, and so now I'm just like slowly going through it. but this would last a really long time. But the less sodium version has 575 milligrams in a tablespoon. I tried this yesterday, and I put in 1 teaspoon of soy sauce into this, actually it was today, and it made it a lot of different, you could really taste it. So you don't need more than a couple hundred milligrams of sodium if you're a person who wants that extra saltiness. And you can do it way less salty than anything you can have somebody else do, like if you went to a restaurant or whatever. So, you know, I always say I'm not perfectly SOS free, but boy have I minimized it. And if you do it yourself and you're careful, you know, not careful, but conscious of what you're doing, then it's going to be, you could spruce this up with a little saltiness without getting into trouble. If you're healthy, if you're not trying to lose weight, all these things we always talk about. You could use miso paste too. And in fact, I put that down at the bottom. See down at the bottom, 1 to 2 teaspoons soy sauce or miso paste optional. So you got options in the soy sauce department. And then the other aisle would be, so the Indian spices, then there was the tofu and miso, and then there's the produce, and sometimes the noodles and the soybeans, if I was going to make my own tofu, but I haven't bought soybeans at that market in a long time. So it's really those just 3 areas, and that's almost all I use them for. And that's the Asian market for me. Sarah says, it'd be cool if you could figure out how to have guest worldlings call in as your co-hosts. Well, actually, it's interesting that you say that, so let's just go ahead and talk about it. One of the reasons that Rob and I were trying this out, Rob's on my other live show. The other format that we do for the paid version of this live show, normally what I've done here is the paid thing, and people are in the room with the ability to talk. So in a Zoom conference room, I don't know if you know that app Zoom, it just allows me to host a meeting. It's like a virtual conference room, simple as that. And people can speak to me and I can hear you in the ear deals here. And but what I've been thinking about doing is switching up the format, because when I started doing that, it was just a one-man show. I was cooking, I couldn't read a chat box when I'm cooking, and a lot of the things I make in that show take the whole hour, so I'm not sitting at the end and hanging out like this. And so we'd be, I would be cooking, I'm already switching the cameras, right, and doing all that, and I'm chopping and all this stuff, and so I could only have so many people in the room talking, so that's why I designed the price to be what it is, which was between $25 and $29 a month, depending on if you buy 1 or 3 months at a time. And that obviously, I understand that's a little bit on the expensive side for most people. And that's kept the number within reason so that we can still have people in the room talking without it being like a total free-for-all where everybody's talking over one another and nobody knows when they can actually talk. And so I thought, Rob's been following me for a while, and we talk once in a while. And so I said, Rob, we should do this thing where instead of, having everybody just talk at once, and also the other thing is a lot of more people than I expected in our paid show do prefer writing in the chat box than speaking. Maybe they're shy, maybe they're just used to it that way because lots of webinars tend to be chat box style, and we sort of become accustomed to that doing it that way. And so when I started noticing that, I thought, well, if we're going to do it that way, maybe we can do some kind of a hybrid version. Obviously, here doing it on YouTube is not really a hybrid version. It's just chat box. But if we did it in this Zoom conference room, I could have Rob sort of moderating, and he could actually turn you on. So there's a little button where you can raise your hand, and he could give you access to speak. So he can unmute you, and you could talk in, and we could talk about a question or whatever, and then go on to the next one, all the while everybody's interacting in the chat box. And if we did it that way, then I could not open it up, but I could have more people because I have somebody else helping me to make it work. And so that would allow me to reduce the price, and we could sort of switch up the format. So I wasn't going to tell you all this, but since you asked, this was meant to be sort of a test to see if that might be something that we want to do. So I would still do my regular Thursday free live show here, where I'm doing the Q&A and interacting and having a good time in the chat box, because I like this. I like being able to see everybody's comments too. Cooking, like I was just doing, it gets a a little quiet because I don't get to see all the interaction. But with having Rob reading it to me and everything, then, you know, we're able to find a way that sort of works. So that's kind of what we had in mind. So if that sounds interesting to you, maybe I'll post in the Facebook group and ask what you think, and we could get a conversation going in there as well. But that is sort of where I was going with this idea. And I wasn't gonna switch and do that tomorrow or anything, but I was going to do it around the time of when I released the sauces, like the ketchup. I'm going to taste sauces one more time tomorrow, and we're going to be doing the sriracha, the ketchup, the Asian stir-fry sauce, an Indian type of stir-fry sauce, and then a barbecue sauce. Those are gonna be the first 5, and I'm hoping to have them, like I said, in around a month, and those are gonna be the first 5. And then we're gonna do a round of salad dressings, 5, and so that'll be the next ones we go R&D on. And then after that, I wanna come back and I wanna do like a salsa, marinara, like a red sauce, pasta sauce, various others that I can't think of on the top of my head. And then maybe we'll do some dry blend type of stuff, sort of like the cheese sauce and mushroom powder, or sort of like some kind of shaker bottle thing, that herb blend thing that you might throw on top. Maybe we make a blend of all these ramen items in whatever amounts that makes sense. And then instead of 50 items on this recipe, and I can just say, just take a 1/4 cup of this and put it in the water, and your broth will be ready. Let it simmer, and then throw in the things you like. I mean, that would be a lot easier than messing around with all this, right? So these are kind of the things that I've been toying with. So you'll have to let me know what you think. Dylan makes salt-free pickles. That's a little more challenging, but you know. So this is, I'll read through a lot of your comments because we, you know, I haven't been able to see them all because I've been sitting here talking. But cool stuff. Rob, are you still there?
I'm here.
So, cool. That's all for today. Thank you everybody for being here live. I had fun. It was fun cooking, showing you this ramen that I've been promising you for ages. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks everybody for watching.